That naval announcement from yesterday, $11 billion in funding, said the headlines. But in reality, as I said to you last night, we've only actually got $1.7 billion in real terms in the budget. And has sadly become standard operating practice for defence, most of the procurements are on the never, never. Now, as an example, yesterday we got told there's new mini frigates on the way, said the minister. But if you look at the fine print, you'll find out that we haven't actually chosen the design or from what country we're going to buy them. Now that the dust is all settled, I spoke with the Australian's foreign editor, Sheridan, a little earlier, who hasn't held back, referring to the announcement as, quote, a cross between a damp squib and a huge con job.
Yeah, Peter, I mean, this is a really pathetic announcement from the government. The only thing we know for sure is that they're going to take 2 Anzac frigates out of service. So they're going to reduce the Anzacs from 9 to 7, which will, and that'll give us a surface fleet of about, from 8 to 6. So that'll give us a surface fleet of 9 in the short term. That's what they can actually do. Now, they're promising, on Star Trek time, to create 20 surface combatants, but most of these are going to be so-called Tier 2 ultra-light frigates. And now the Tier 2 frigates are only supposed to have twice the number of vertical launch cells that the Anzacs have, which the Anzacs have 8. The Tier 2 frigates will have 16. We regard the Hunter frigate at having 32 as being wildly underarmed. So these are very, very, very little pop-gun boats that we're going to get. And Peter, I'd take our viewers back to Kevin Rudd's Defence White Paper in 2009. It said we must have 12 regionally superior submarines as soon as possible. And all around Asia for the first year or so after that, the Rudd and Gillard governments were saying, look, we're going to double Australia's submarine fleet. Isn't that fantastic? So the government got what it wanted, which was a whole bunch of headlines, but we got no submarines. And here we are 15 years later, we still got the same 6 old Collins-class submarines and no new submarine, in prospect even.
I've got to ask you a question, though. I mean, here we have on paper this idea that we are going to buy off the shelf, and that's our best chance of getting this stuff in the water as quick as possible. But I think I went back last night and said it was the 1960s. That was the last time we truly bought off the shelf. How confident are you that the government will meet that commitment and the defence bureaucracy won't get them to make it special and do something extra that blows out time and budget? But secondly, you and I have been around long enough, right? Defence industry, defence bureaucrats have been giving advice to government, and then 4 or 5 years later, the government, having taken that advice, has to come out and say, well, wrong decision, won't work, we're now told it's something else. And this happens all the time, regardless of who's in power. So when are there going to be heads roll in the defence machine for all these wrong-headed sets of advices that go to government, all these reviews that go nowhere, that recommend this and we end up with that, then we're told that that's wrong, we should have had this. Who is going to take responsibility in the defence bureaucracy for getting this so wrong so often?
Well, you're absolutely right, Peter. Miles's first big mistake. Anthony Albanese and Richard Miles made very good speeches on defence in opposition. They seem to have a good understanding of the problem. Miles's first big mistake was to reappoint all the senior defence and civilian leaders in the defence establishment. So if you want a change of cultural direction, you don't do that by reappointing everybody who has given you this terrible performance over the years. I slightly exempt industry from the criticism because it is government and the Defence Department which keeps changing the requirements. So Lursen is building our offshore patrol vessels. Lursen is a perfectly competent shipbuilding company, but they've been underway for 6 years, longer than the time of the Second World War. And this, the simplest ship we're building, has still not come into service. But that's because they get endless repeated changes of requirements from the government and the defence establishment. I mean, industry has a legitimate gripe in Australia that they never get a straight order. Now, you asked, how confident am I we're really going to buy off the shelf? I think there's no chance of that at all. No chance of that at all. So again, to take the Lursen's example, they're making the offshore patrol vessels. You could say, okay, finish that at 6, which the government has done, and build for us instead the same corvettes that you build for other countries. Lursen already builds them. We know how many missile cells they've got, how many helicopters they can launch, all the rest of it. Instead, for reasons that are unfathomable, we're going to have a tender process, a design competition. We're allegedly going to look for a mature design. But Defence claimed it was going for a mature design when it went for the Hunter frigate. If we're urgent and we want to move now, why not just buy from the South Koreans or the Americans as soon as they can build them an Arleigh Burke or a big guided missile destroyer like the Koreans build for themselves? The fact that we're going, and you see, it suits the government in a way because we have the competition next year, we make a decision in 2025. That means they don't have to spend any real money in the forward estimates, which means really they're just having a lend of us. They're just pulling our legs. This is complete baloney, this statement. It's as likely to come into existence as Kevin Rudd's 12 regionally superior conventional submarines. It's almost completely meaningless. And once again, Miles has failed to give either money or leadership or purpose or definition to our defence efforts.
Greg Sheridan, we as Australians are indebted to you for keeping a focus on this stuff, but unravelling all the defence speak here because you are keeping them honest. Thank you for your time as always.
Thanks so much, Peta. Great to be with you.